The first Semitic language is the root language to most languages in use today, if not all, as the Middle East is the home and origin of writing, and the location which conforms to archaeological and genetic findings today, which places our earliest ancestors in Africa and the Arabian Peninsula before spreading out all over the earth. The Semitic letters from thousands of years ago are still used today in Arabic, as opposed to their diluted forms or the outright corruption of them in other languages. An example you can look into is the letter A in English. The final form of this A is made by first using the ancient Semitic letter's simplified form and then flipping that letter upside down, literally on its head. Also, there are entire books written on retracing words back to Arabic. A quick example I can give is the word earth in English, which can be traced all the way back to ard in Arabic by studying the languages in between it and Arabic and studying its change over time. It can even still be found in its original form in some English words, such as orchard, orch-erd, where orch symbolizes the herb and ard the land or earth. This can be done in detail for all languages and Arabic words. I want to propose that there is more to the Quran being in the Arabic tongue than just the mere fact that the first receivers of it were Arabic speakers. It is a mercy from Allah that they were Arabic speakers. Yes, it is because they were Arabic speakers. But in addition to that, a language that carries Allah's words cannot be a corrupt one. It must be pure. In the Quran, we are told that it is in a language that is Arabic without any crookedness or deviation. Arabic is a language preserved and uncorrupted, firm in its Semitic roots at the time of revelation. Moses received revelation and the law in a Semitic language, and so did Muhammad in the final revelation to all mankind. In Surah 55, Ar-Rahman, ayat 1-4, we are told that Allah taught the Quran, He created man and taught him al-bayan. The word bayan means clearness, plainness, evident or obviousness. Clarity, manifest fact, manifestation, information, declaration, announcement, statement, eloquence, and demonstration. From this, I understand that Allah taught us that which is true, pure, clear, factual, and which can be expressed fully, perfectly, and clearly. As seen also in the Quran when Adam was told to give the names of all things, and was able to, by using clear speech, fully comprehensible by others, and taught to him by Allah. I am not saying that Arabic is a holy language enforced on us. What I am saying is that it is for our own best interest. A language which is unchanging, fixed, standardized, and evidence-based is a language for those who have standards, be it in thought, as language is a tool of thought, commerce, law, doctrine, etc. A language at the mercy of the whims of men and women, ever-changing, has no standards. Good can mean that which is harmful or of poor quality, and bad can mean that which is beneficial and of good quality. In areas requiring standards such as faith, business, administration, governing, law, culture, etc., a standardized language that is fully installed in the minds of its users, meaning that it is normalized in the areas mentioned above, and is used by those in them and not only by the heads, rulers, clergy, and the priesthood, is a must. A quick example of this is if we take a look at the language used in commerce. What is sold to the consumer today under the name genuine leather is not the genuine leather the average man or woman thinks they are buying. In fact, what is truly genuine leather or the leather they think they are buying is sold under the names full grain or top leather. Genuine leather is the leftovers of the manufacturing process of full grain or top grain called splits, which has been shipped to China, where they then take that material and pour plastics, oils, etc. on it, embossing it and stamping it in order to make it look like the much higher quality and strength full grain or top leather, the product the consumer thinks he is buying in the first place. This is just one example. Other quick examples are milk, fruit juice, honey, or all kinds of oils and foods. What we want is milk from cattle, juice from fruit, or honey that is healing, etc. But what we get is a corrupted version of the healthy, balanced, pure food we think we are buying. whether due to pasteurization or the addition of sugars, harmful oils, hormones, or other substances found in the end product sold. The problem is found in food, medicine, all over the place, even in the news, media, and culture. The lack of a standardized language which is used and normalized by the masses can lead to a lack of standards in areas that require strict standards. Legalese, or the language of the law used in English-speaking countries, is a standardized language comprised of Law Latin, Norman French, and English that was originally used in court cases throughout the years. However, since that language is only understood by lawyers and judges and other law-related professions, the average man or woman is forced to be dependent on them. Additionally, words that the average man or woman use in their daily lives are also used in law, but with entirely different meaning to that found in plain English. For example, the term avoid in English means to escape or evade, but in law means make void or undo. Another example is the word determine, which means to ascertain, whereas in law means to terminate. This language of law, although standardized in its own way, is not ideal and forces the users of it to use archaic words and phrases not matching the language of the current society. It also creates extremely long run-on sentences and convoluted language in order for it to be precise and seemingly incorruptible. Many of its users are pushing for the reform of this language in favor of plain English. Plain English seems to be as accurate and more compact at first glance if carefully used, with the additional benefit of not needing run-on sentences and convoluted language. However, the changing meaning of the English words make it difficult to reference old court cases and decisions. As plain English is a system of cognitive conceptual redefinition, meaning that even if the words themselves of things don't change, the word's meaning changes. For example, the term radical in plain English today means something extreme, but originally from Latin used to mean rooted, as in something going back to the original fundamental or basic thing. Another example is the word awful. Awful today is taken negatively, whereas it used to mean worthy of awe and can still be seen in the word itself, awe, full. A standardized language is one where the systems of communication such as speaking, writing, and reading are measured against it for accuracy. The reality is that the current English language of the law is not satisfactory and is often retranslated into plain English, a non-standardized language, in order to be comprehended. Also, this language is not normalized, meaning that it is not the actual language of the people. This creates information asymmetry, meaning that it creates a condition where the group with the more information can take advantage of the group with less information. Those with more or better information have this due to the additional communication networks open to them. In this case, through this legalese language, this gives them advantage over the rest. Over time, this asymmetry of information can create a group holding power and authority and another that is unable and dependent. English needs legalese in order to access and comprehend old court cases, etc. Whereas, if you learn classical Arabic, you can access and understand the Arabic used throughout all time. If you learn the script of the time, you are able to easily know what is written thousands of years ago, due to it being the same language, unchanged. With English, you are lucky if the language stays the same for a few years before it is updated. Claiming that it is hard, unfair, and not normal for us to learn a foreign or non-native language that extends over many countries is disingenuous. We have had in the past and still have to this day a bridge, link, or common language that is accepted and used by the majority for trade and other areas mentioned earlier. English is a lingua franca today, and which is not usually a native language, but a third language between two parties who have their own languages. English, however, is not standardized and is therefore not ideal for law and other areas mentioned earlier. as evident by the junk being sold as value today and imported to every nation using this lingua franca. Junk such as cultural Marxism, feminism, hedonism, sexual liberation, what it is sold as but in reality being sexual perversion, and so forth. Therefore, claiming that we don't need to learn Arabic to understand the Quran, for example, is true to an extent. It is Allah who guides. You find fluent Arabic speakers who do not understand the Quran, and you also find those who know no Arabic who do. This is because they are sincere and not because of accurate translations. They have been guided despite having to depend on translations and middlemen. But if we learned English and it was not our native tongue, then what we are basically saying is not that we don't want to learn a new language. We are saying that we are willing to learn a new language for what we think is important, but not for what really is. We were created different and unique. Some nations have a language which creates good standards, some not so good. Even if the standards of a nation appear to be the best, we are told that we are the best of nations in terms of our standards if we uphold the guidance of the Quran, which is in a clear Arabic tongue. Many who claim to follow the Quran alone without any other sources beside it have merely just swapped out the Persian-created ahadith literature and other books with its interpretations of what the Quran and its words mean for their own desires. The Quran alone follower may seem to be picking and choosing interpretations made by others that best match their own ideas of what things should be, not what is. They choose that which is the least in terms of having to go against their own biases and societal norms, or the path that is least demanding on them in this life, revolting against the dogmatic ways of the traditional Muslim with his strict rituals and traditions. The only true way to be independent and free from middlemen and to fully comprehend the Quran is to sincerely want to know what Allah is saying and to learn the language He used. Whether we are non-Arabic speakers or Arabic speakers, this applies to all of us. Now, the Arabic word kitab is usually translated as book and has the root kaf ta ba, which contains the meaning of something being etched in, inscribed, carved in, stitched, seamed, or written. A physical book, as well as writing in general in the past, is something that is fixed. A letter, word, sentence, or chapter in a book is fixed in its place and cannot be moved around or changed. This is also why the word kitab is also used for law, decree, contract, or covenant, and why the same root word is used to express leaving behind a written will. This can also be found in English, for example, to book a meeting. Allah revealed to Adam the names of all things, which is the law of identity, which simply means that everything has an identity and that that specific thing is unlike another thing. There are no contradictions, meaning that A equals A and cannot be A equals A and equals not A at the same time. Put another way, A cannot be not A if all conditions are the same. A cat cannot be a cat and not a cat at the same time. It is either a cat or it is not a cat. Even if others agree that a cat is a dog, the reality stays the same. This is the means by which we use our reason in order to differentiate between reality and non-reality. If our thoughts and ideas do not conform to reality, then we know that we are not operating from reason or fact and are not operating from truth. Semitic languages are unique and incorruptible if you know how they work. A still equals A, thus it is no surprise that Allah has chosen them as languages of the law. So, the example I give to illustrate how the Arabic letters work is the example of the original Arabic numerals, where the number 0 symbol had no angles. The number 1 had 1 angle, 2 had 2 angles, 3 had 3 angles, and so forth. The way it works is that each number symbol intrinsically held its meaning within itself. every symbol by the Semitic speaking men and women originally had a purpose and a duty to be valuable intrinsically in order to remain pure in its identity. An example to further illustrate this is by using an analogy comparing modern English to classical Arabic. Modern English is more like the paper money in your pocket or the digital money in your bank account. Its value today comes from outside of the money itself. Classical Arabic in this analogy is like gold, where its value is held intrinsically. Its value comes from within itself, from reality rather than from opinion or consensus. This is true only if the Arabic is kept pure and free from religious, insincere, and corrupt influence on meaning by ignoring the actual Arabic. Also, this does not mean that Latin or English do not have words that still contain the letters and their true original meaning within the word. The example is of modern English. A fraudulent language is one that manipulates the words used by its users so that the words themselves conceal reality and hide the truth. An example of this is euphemisms, where words are used to hide any unpleasantness that might arise from the actual intended words. The only condition for using this type of language that I can see is when discussing private matters such as those that are sexual in nature in the public. However, in matters pertaining to the public, this type of language is not truthful. A user of such a language would hide the true intent and not say what they mean. And if this type of language is used by the user on themselves, then they will deceive themselves and be lost. The fastest way from point A to point B is a straight line, and that is accomplished by using clear, truthful language. If someone intends for you to not reach point B, then they will divert you from it, and that is where fraudulent language comes in. For example, in order to change something about yourself, you must first come to terms with the truth of where you are at. Unless you accept your reality, you will not change. If I am obese and call myself big-boned, then I'm not going to change. Unless I know that point A is being obese and point B is being thin, I will not have direction. If your words are pure and to their true meaning, then you will be using a language of truth. If your language is corrupt, then you are using a language filled with contradiction and are therefore subconsciously living in incongruity, in inalignment, and are handicapping your full potential. Additionally, when it comes to law, using corrupted language can make it easy for those who want to take advantage of you do so. Semitic languages can convey far more meaning in far fewer words compared to other languages. Even without discussing grammar, it is the case due to the fact that not only does a word hold meaning, that word itself can be broken down into a root word, a three-letter word, which gives you greater meaning. And that root word can again be broken down into its parent root word, a two-letter word which gives you meaning. Some roots remain at 3 consonants. And yet again, that parent root, as well as any root, can be broken down into its root letters, which also give you meaning. A word in this fashion does not just mean a name we call something by. It is a name that holds the meaning, function, effect, explanation, and even visual information for the imagination to use of the thing being named. Not only that, but the Arabs understood that if they wanted to preserve their language, they had to take words that are coming in from the outside and Arabitize them, so that they meet this criteria. Admittedly, this may not be as potent as the original Arabic words. However, that is why it is said that when you are studying Arabic, you are not just studying a language, but rather you are studying the universe. Finally, our subconscious mind thinks in images and emotions. This is also where our memory, habits, etc. are found, whereas our conscious mind thinks in words. The Semitic language letters are rooted in pictures that make up a letter's meaning and additionally carry a mathematical code, so to speak, made up of a precise physical and auditory fingerprint which can identify and hold meaning of a letter. This way, when we think, speak, and take action, we are using 100% of our mind. our conscious and our subconscious, our mind and heart, both logical and creative, conceptual and concrete, objective and emotive. Surely being aligned and balanced in such a fashion will lead to optimal efficiency and result in terms of what we would want out of a language.